Hi everyone, it's Marla. Welcome back to my channel, Eclipse Astrology and Tarot. I'm here with your weekly reading for the week of December 19th. If you would like to book a personal reading with me, you can visit my website at eclipseastro.com or follow me on Facebook at Eclipse Astrology and Tarot. All right, we have another busy week this week, and I'm sorry, but I think the energy is going to be really intense. So let's get right into what's going on. First of all, we have the winter solstice on the 22nd. That's the sun moving into Capricorn. It's the shortest day of the year, and it's going to mark a big energetic gateway for us. Then on Christmas Day, we have a very unusual occurrence, and that is a full moon in Cancer. And apparently we haven't had a full moon on Christmas Day since 1977. So again, this is something that doesn't occur very often. This full moon is going to be very intense as well, though. We have the moon in Cancer, and the moon rules Cancer, so the moon is very powerful there. And Cancer rules the fourth house, and that rules your home and your family. It rules the bottom of your chart or your IC. And that is an area that we like to keep hidden. In fact, all the water signs are areas of our chart that we like to keep hidden. And so it's very much our private life. It also rules our soul family and our soul origins. The sun is going to be in Capricorn. The sun and the moon are going to be at 3 degrees, by the way. So the sun is going to be in Capricorn, and Capricorn is our public life. Capricorn rules our MC, or the top of the chart. It's where our life is most public. It's how we present ourselves to the world. It's our career, it's our relationship status, everything that we put out there. So I feel there's going to be a real balancing going on between our public life and our private life and our home and what we do out in the world. And Cancer is a very intuitive sign. It's ruled by the moon, and the moon is our subconscious. So it's intuitive and it's psychic and it's feminine energy. It's very nurturing. Cancer and the moon I should say, rules the mother. And so it's where we want to be secure and safe. But I don't really see us feeling that way this week. And of course, Christmas time is the time where we're around our family. But I'm not sure that things are going to go smoothly. First of all, we have Mercury and Capricorn, and Mercury's making a lot of aspects this week, especially at the full moon. And Mercury's in its shadow period. It's going to go retrograde in the beginning of January. And on Christmas Day, when the full moon is occurring, it's going to aspect Jupiter, the nodes, Mars, and Venus. Now, normally when Mercury aspects Jupiter and Venus, that's usually good, like good, helpful communications. But I'm not feeling that right now because, first of all, Jupiter is not very happy in Virgo. Okay, Jupiter wants to kick back with a drink and relax and party and hang out with his friends. But in Virgo, he can't do that because he has to wrap the presents and write out the cards and make the cookies and take care of all these little details. So he's a little bit frustrated. And Virgo energy can be very critical and judgmental. And Mercury over in Capricorn, Mercury in Capricorn can be a little bit of a dictator, kind of bossy, and just not a good communicator in general. So there is some friction there. With the nodes, I feel like there's going to be something karmic occurring. Mercury trines the north node, sextiles the south node. So I feel like it's something from the past is going to be brought up again this week. Squaring Mars in Libra. Mars doesn't really like being in Libra because he has to deal with, relationships and being nice to other people when he really just wants to take care of himself. And Mars square Mercury is often arguments. And then Venus, it's a sextile aspect, but Venus in Scorpio is very passionate. And if someone disrespects her or, doesn't return her love, if she feels rebuffed by someone, and it doesn't have to be, a lover, it can be someone in your family, then she's going to get annoyed and she's not going to be happy. So I don't see communications running that smoothly. Then we have Uranus and Pluto squaring, and they're less than 2 degrees apart. So that's a pretty tight square. And they're making a T-square with Black Moon Lilith in Libra. So the energy there is also very volatile and about change and transformation. And especially with the Lilith there, you can say things. Things can just come out of your mouth. Same thing with Mercury, Jupiter. That can be not knowing when to shut up. You just keep talking, sticking your foot in your mouth, saying too much. And asteroid karma is also in this T-square. So again, karma being brought up. And people aren't going to be in the mood to placate others, is how I'm feeling. There's a big need going on right now to be authentic. And I think this is part of what's going on with the full moon as far as the Cancer Capricorn axis. Are you the same person when you're at home as you are when you're out in public, or are you fake? And where are you being fake? Where is the real you? And are you willing to show the real you, not only publicly, but to your family? And oftentimes, our family is much more judgmental of us than people outside of us. So yeah, there's a big shift towards being authentic. And Uranus and Pluto are helping us with that, Black Moon Lilith. Sorry, just tuning in for a minute. Because I know there was something else that I wanted to say about that, and I lost it. All right, now Uranus as well. So I told you there was a lot to talk about, and I haven't even gotten into the cards yet. So Uranus is stationing direct. So on Christmas Day at the full moon, he's going to be stopped dead in the sky. And he's very powerful in that state. And now, as Uranus was moving retrograde, we were making a lot of changes, but all these changes were internal. We were thinking about them, getting them straight in our mind. And now, as he goes direct, we'll be ready to start making those changes public. And as he stopped, it can kind of feel like time is stopped. And for a lot of people, this can be an awakening aspect, because there may have been things going on in your unconscious mind, as he was retrograde, that you weren't quite letting come to the surface. And now that he goes direct, now these things can come to the surface. And you'll have revelations. All right, also aspecting the full moon. We have Juno trining it, which is partnerships. And a trine isn't a bad aspect, so that could be helpful. We have Neptune also trining it, which could be either things not clear or clear. And I actually feel like with the moon in Cancer illuminating something in the home, I think it's going to actually bring clarity. It's like the moon is going to be suddenly lighting something up, and you're going to be able to see it for the first time. And then we have Vesta squaring it. And Vesta is the goddess of home and hearth and devotion. But she's in a squaring aspect to the moon. So something at home isn't right. There's some kind of conflict going on. All right, let's get to the cards. The first card is the overall energy. 7 of Cups. And we've had this card quite a bit, as we were talking the last few weeks about making that decision, struggling between your head and your heart. But this week I see this card not so much about a decision, but you have a lot of ideas. Okay, this is Mercury, Jupiter. You're getting a lot of ideas. But I feel like you're being your own worst enemy. Okay, so this week, don't get stuck in your head. Your fears are going to want to come up. Okay, don't let your fears control you. Try and see where the fears are coming from. And with the full moon being in our 4th house, where we feel secure, could be fears around security. This could be you dreaming about your future, trying to envision your future. And we're still in this blind corner where we don't know what's going to happen. We can't see our future at all right now. So we're envisioning, we're daydreaming about what our future is going to look like. And cups are emotions, and it's going to be a very emotional time. The full moon does make people a little bit crazy. Not a great energy to have around for some people when their family already makes them a little bit crazy. This card can also be visions coming to you. So watch out for visions, gut feelings, dreams, anything psychic. Okay, and Cancer, like I said, is the sign of intuition, and Neptune's aspecting the moon. Right, the next card is the hidden influence. Sacrifice. And the deck I'm using is called the Lover's Path Tarot. And in the traditional tarot, this card is the Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man is about seeing things from a new perspective. So you might see your family in a new light this week. And you might just be like, WTF, these people don't understand me at all. And so that can cause some hurt feelings, you know? But maybe you don't say anything, because this card, sacrifice, it can be sacrificing something for the greater good. So maybe you manage to not say anything when someone upsets you. You know, you can get this new perspective and people don't understand. You know, it can be too futuristic for people, or, you know, too advanced, especially with the Uranus being stationed and people having revelations. You know, don't expect people to be able to see and understand your perspective this week. It's about being tested. You know, we're in a big time of testing and letting go. Letting go of things that aren't on our path. It can be letting go of relationships. You know, and that illumination I talked about, illuminating your fourth house. Maybe you see that there's relationships that you were blind to, and now suddenly you see the truth of the relationship. And this card, the Hanged Man, can also be enlightenment. Getting clarity, getting higher wisdom. On this card, we have Orpheus and Eurydice, and I've talked about them before. Eurydice and Orpheus were soulmates, and Eurydice was killed, and Orpheus, who was the best singer in the land, went down into the underworld to get her. And he sang to Pluto and Persephone, and he actually softened their hearts, and they were going to let Eurydice go. With the one stipulation, that Orpheus didn't turn around and look at Eurydice until they were completely out and up, completely out of the underworld and above ground. But he did. He wasn't trusting, and he turned around and looked at her, and she was carried back into the underworld, and he lost his mission. So that's one of the reasons why I say it's a card of letting go. And it's also a card of being stuck in between worlds. You know, this is a time of transition. And we do definitely feel stuck right now. You know, it feels like nothing's moving. And that's a lot about what the Hangman card is about. It's things being at a standstill. But so you may be called to sacrifice this week and put other people, before yourself. Maybe there's something that you want to do and you let it go because it's Christmas time and you don't want to spoil anyone's fun. So you're kind of waiting to the right moment. All right, the next card is our advice from Spirit. 7 of Arrows. So this card is about deception. So either you're deceiving someone or someone is deceiving you, or maybe you're deceiving yourself. It's a card of maybe feeling guilty, sneaking around. So this might have to do with your ability to be authentic as well. Maybe you're avoiding being authentic. I mean, if you look at the card, it kind of looks like she's sneaking off. She's being stealthy. She doesn't want to wake up Cupid, or Eros rather. Same thing, but usually more people are more familiar with Eros. So maybe that's something that's going to be illuminated for you. Someone is being deceptive. Or maybe you're being deceptive and you're the one that gets illuminated. Something comes out that you're trying to hide. Now, this card can also be about bad communication as well, or arguments, disagreements with people, having to defend yourself against someone's accusations, or someone is opposing your freedom. Someone is opposing you being your authentic self. And there's a good chance that it could be your family. Last week I talked about standing your ground, and I said that people really don't want you to change. Okay, they're going to fight against you changing because it's not convenient for them. All right, and this card can be like battle of wits, which I can see that happening with Mercury and Virgo. Mercury in Capricorn and Jupiter in Virgo. And it's both kind of, it's that kind of energy. And maybe you're thinking about leaving, sneaking off in the night. We have 2 7 cards this week, and 7s are associated with the planet Uranus and the sign of Cancer. And 7s are about our inner growth and fate and divine direction. Okay, and I just want to go over the Sabians too real quick. And you'll see also how they have to do with disagreements between people. The Sabian for the full moon is a cat arguing with a mouse. So again, we have arguments going on, conflict, and it's about one person being bigger or greater than the other person, or maybe someone is making you feel small, or someone is making you feel cornered. Could be, fear. Again, it goes back to not feeling secure. Obviously, if you're a mouse and there's a cat around, you don't feel secure, or you feel like someone is playing with you, maybe toying with you. The Sabian for the sun is a group of people entering a canoe for a journey by water. So this Sabian talks about leaving, starting a journey, being authentic, because you're going on the canoe, like you're taking an adventure. You don't know where this adventure is going to lead you. But you are with a group of people. So it seems like you will find more common ground with people that aren't necessarily your family. I'm not sure if I've got that right, but. And the one for Uranus is two prim spinsters sitting together in silence. So again, they're sitting in silence. They're not communicating. And they're prim spinsters, so we get the idea that maybe they're judgmental, or they have an air of being better than someone else. And again, it kind of feels like that standstill energy with that Sabian. And I want to just mention that when Uranus does go direct, and I'm going to talk about this more next week, all the planets are going to be going direct then. And that, again, is something very rare. And that's going to be like getting shot out of a cannon, I think. Very powerful, forward-moving energy. And, the declination degree for Uranus is 5 degrees, 55 minutes, and 5 seconds. And fives are change, so change is definitely in the air. Now, I did draw a goddess card for the full moon, and the goddess I have is Isolde, undying love. And Isolde's message is the love you have shared is eternal, regardless of the situation. And Isolde, the myth of Isolde is about a love triangle. She was married to King Mark, but her heart really belonged to the knight Tristan. So that's an interesting energy to have going on. As far as letting go of relationships, things being illuminated in your 4th house of home. Your status is being affected with the sun there. And so maybe if you are involved in a triangle, maybe that's going to come to light. Or maybe moving towards your true love. It can be a soulmate coming into your life. And Isolde is also about healing your heart, So if you find yourself in conflict this week, call on Isolt to heal your heart, and know that when your heart is healed, the right soulmate is going to come into your life. And Chiron this week is being conjunct by the asteroid Amur and trine by the asteroid Valentine. So 2 love asteroids. So I do feel like regardless of some of the conflict that's going on, there is also healing going on. And sometimes it's very healing to kind of get our emotions out. If there's something that we haven't been saying and we need to get it out, it's kind of cathartic to let it out. So maybe a little bit of that is going to be happening with this energy as well. And Isolt's message is the love you have shared is eternal, regardless of the situation. So whether someone is coming or going, know that has a soul, there's always some love there. People come in our life to teach us a lesson. They're not meant to stay, but the love that we share, even though the lesson that they teach us can be harsh, we do share love with them on a soul level. And we need to love everybody. Even if someone is hurting us or we're in a situation that's not ideal, show the situation love and send healing to it. And know that everything happens for a reason. All right, I'm going to end it there. Happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. And have a great week. I love you, and I will talk to you soon.